I think we'll start anyway. I'd like to call this regular meeting of the Township of Uxbridge Council to order. Are there any disclosures of pecuniary interest or general nature thereof? If there are none, review of items not listed on the agenda, Madam Clerk.
Oh.
We hear you.
I know, I get it. Your Worship, there is one addendum which included a report from me.
Thank you. Some announcements? How about we start over here? Councillor Hyatt.
Good evening, everyone. Thank you for coming on this warm evening, to say the least. Our air conditioning is down, so you'll have to bear with us. Sit next to a fan if you feel a little hot and sweaty. So there's a lot going on. I'm just going to touch on a couple of things. We had the hospital golf tournament last week. Right. Mayor, what's your last name? Malloy? And Councillor
Mayor
Brian
saved your butt that
and
day.
myself, we appeared in that, and we didn't do that great, but we had fun. They raised a fair bit of money, too, for the hospital, which was a great thing. We also had the Sam Sharp statue unveiling in town on Friday. If you were able to see that, it was amazing. It always amazes me if such a small town has a great turnout for things like that, and Remembrance Day and so on. And on a personal note, my oldest daughter graduated from Queen's University last week, so we are very proud of her. Thank you. She's going to be a teacher like her mom, so we're trying to get her a job so we can kick her out of the house. So it's
it's not that easy.
Anyway, we're very proud of her, and we wish her all the best. Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Councillor Beach.
Good evening, everybody. There's a few things going on. This weekend, the AGM for the Uxbridge Scott Historical Society at the museum on Saturday from 1 till 3. And then also there is the Dimba Festival, starts at 10 on Saturday. And also on Saturday, the museum opens at 10 o'clock for the new exhibit, Voices Counted, the Suffrage exhibit. And then also tour of homes on Saturday. So it's a busy Saturday coming up with the Trinity United Church. And that's about it. Thank you.
Thank you. Councillor Brian.
Thank you very much. I won't mention what already has been said. A couple of things. We do have the How to Do 10 and 10 at the library. I encourage you to go on their website. They'll talk about everything from how to declutter your kitchen, to do a family tree, to be dementia savvy. I think that's very, very important. As well, this is the last weekend for High School Musical at the Music Center, or the Music Hall, which is fantastic. And the Rotary are having a blood donor clinic on June the 1st from 1:30 to 7:30. And on another personal note, my daughter is going to Queen's this year, so we will talk, and maybe I can get a sweatshirt from you. Recycle them.
Own you one.
Anyways, thank you very much.
Regional Councillor Ballinger.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor, and good evening to everyone. First, on a sad note, we've lost some citizens in our community, one in Gary Langlands and one in Merriam Woods. But one that stands out in my mind that's been friends of this township for years and years and years is Victor Giardino.
Oh, he died? I didn't know that.
His son got a hold of me, and Victor and his brother Dominic started Vic Dom Sand and Gravel many, many years ago. In all the years, and I would say maybe 50, you've never seen a truck of theirs run down this street of Uxbridge. They do not allow their trucks to come down through Brock Street. They were good corporate citizens. Dominic passed away a few years ago. Vic has his son Bruno that works with him. He has Jimmy that works there. His daughter Rose that works there. Grandchildren that work there. At any time, you could go down and approach that aggregate industry, and they would either, if you needed rocks, they gave you the rocks. If you needed some limestone, they looked after that. If you needed cash for anything, they looked after that. When the Syrian families come into Uxbridge, Vic was the first one to call me and say, Jack, if somebody needs a job, I'll give them a job. So I've texted them, I've sent a message, I will be going down, tomorrow is the visitation. It's at the Holy Cross Catholic, funeral home in Thornhill. Vic was 86 years of age. He was married for 63 years. And he is going to be lost in this community. I just don't know of a nicer family and people that would reach out and help you whenever you needed help. So that's my message, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you. Councillor Barton.
Yeah, just talking about Vic, that's tough news. I met him last summer, just before Canada Day, and totally gracious, shook my hand, we chatted for probably 15 minutes, then I got a full tour of Vic Dom, down into the pit floor, showed me, answered every possible question. Fantastic corporate citizen, so very sorry to hear that, Jack, I know you were close. All right, a few things. It's bike month, which is why I'm allowing myself to wear shorts. I rode my bike here today. And then it's
Thank
also,
goodness it isn't spandex, that's all I can tell you.
that's what I'm wearing underneath.
Okay.
And then it's also Accessibility Week here. So you'll notice there's new accessible logos that we passed in council about a month ago. Catalina's done a lot of work to get the decals on different things, and it's a very positive approach. And if you speak to people with accessibility needs, most of them are very feel this logo kind of changes the dynamic for them. Anyway, a couple things I was at. The Leah Daniels CD release party was a blast. It was at Second Wedge. They had to turn people away because it was overfull or full. Fantastic time, local artist. And then we were all at 13 Ways to Kill Your Community, which was very some interesting ideas there. So lots of great things happening. And thanks for dealing with the heat in here.
Thank you. I put one little plug in for my daughter too. Yesterday she lives in New Brunswick now, and she was interpreting for the Premier of New Brunswick yesterday. So I thought I'd throw that in. She's an American Sign Language interpreter. So anyway, that's all the plugs we have for today. Presentations we're going to go to now. Regional Councillor Ballinger, would you like to take the floor and call up our buddy there in the front row? Come on up, Tim. You're going to go to a mic, Jack? You better go to a mic. Oh, I don't need a mic. They won't hear you on TV. We need to hear the mic, sorry. Tim, why don't you go over there with Jack, would you?
Well, ladies and gentlemen, this is a pleasure. As a kid growing up in Uxbridge, I learned how to swim in the pond, learned how to fish, and when the winter time came, I learned how to skate and play hockey. And somebody was always out there for us as kids that helped us clean off the rink. So for 11 years now, we in the winter time have monitored the ice out there and made sure it's safe. If you see a yellow flag, it means it's safe to go on the ice. There's at least 8 inches out there. If you see a red flag, it means it's a danger sign. Don't go on the ice, kind of thing. And it can be a frustrating job because you know the way the weather is now. One time you got the ice cleaned and then a freezing rain comes, a ton of snow, and well, you go at it and you just get it cleaned off, and then the same thing happens again, and then it can be very frustrating. So a couple of years ago, Tim came along and he said, Jack, I just live over there. I'd like to help. He saw me with the auger I carried around in my van all winter, and I'd go out and test it. And he said, I can help do some of these things. So I said, wow, that's great. So Tim has the auger and he keeps it at his place and helps me go out and flag the ice. He does all the cleaning. In his spare time, he gets a tractor and everything from the arena. He goes out and he cleans the ice off, and I know it's appreciated. And then, Dave, would you read a letter there, please? I'd like Tim to hear this.
Sure. So this letter came in today, Tim. So I'm hoping I can pass on a sincere thank you to the selfless member of our community who spends hours each winter preparing the rinks, skating track on Elgin Pond. My 2 young boys and I have created so many amazing memories on those rinks. Watching from our house on the side of the pond, I can tell you all the various surfaces created on the pond are very well used by many other members of our community, young and old, for both fun and exercise. With all the snow we saw fall the past winter, we saw the orange tractor working extra hard to keep Uxbridge skating. Please, if you know who this Caped Crusader is, pass on our many thanks to him directly. Sincerely, the McNally boys, Branson, Cooper, and Ryan. And they live right across the pond from you. Yeah.
Thank you, Councillor. So, as you see, the ice doesn't get cleaned by itself. It takes volunteers. Now, I wanted to do something, and this is just a token of our appreciation from council and from all the residents in Uxbridge to say thank you. And the card says thank you. And there's something in case you have to ever sharpen your auger. And could I have a round of applause for a real good volunteer? And I would love to have the council come down and get a picture with Tim, please. Council? So there's a saying, just so you know the saying, when the snow comes back, just blame Jack. When the ice is thin, blame it on him. Congratulations.
Absolutely. Alrighty, let's roll. Item 6, approval of the minutes. Someone like to make a motion to approve the minutes, please? Moved by Councillor Hyatt, seconded by Councillor Bryan. All those in favor? Carried. Correspondence, item number 7.
Correspondence item 66, top aggregate producing municipalities of Ontario, Tatmo re-impact appeal by Wellington County.
I've been asked actually by Donna if we can table this till the June
Table?
meeting.
Okay,
I'll
motion.
tell you why, because we have MPAC coming back that want to explain some of the details surrounding this.
Okay, I'll
Can
motion
you make
to
a
table.
motion to table it?
Yep.
Okay, or to, we have to make a motion to lift it, please, Councillor Hyatt? To
Is it
lift
tabled already?
It's still tabled.
Okay. Motion to lift?
No, we have to lift it, then retable it for another date. Moved by Councillor Hyatt to lift from the table, seconded by Councillor Beach. All those in favor? Carried. Now someone would like to make a motion to table it till the June meeting, June council. Councillor Hyatt, seconded by Councillor Beach. All those in favor? Carried. The 11th? Go ahead, Debbie.
Correspondence item 76, Town of Oakville re-CN intermodal update.
Any comments on this one? Councillor Hyatt,
Motion to receive, Mr. Mayor.
move just to receive it.
Yeah.
Second, you have a comment?
Well, the only comment is, these things are tough. We need a national transportation plan, and it affects some communities in tough ways, so it's what's more critical.
So you're seconding that motion,
Sure.
Councillor Barton? Great. All those in favor? Carried.
Correspondence item 77, Bailey and Fedora, re. 161387 Ontario Limited, proposed transfer to the
speak to
Township
this,
of
Lydia?
Uxbridge,
I
Part
think
Lot
everybody knows about
34, Concession 6, Uxbridge, now Part 3, Plan 40R23825.
I'm gonna let Ingrid speak to this for a moment before we have any questions. Ingrid?
My personal opinion would be that we would pursue this, and we would get an appraisal on the property, and we would look at granting the tax receipt based on the appraisal. I think it's a piece of property that probably would never do anything with it, and maybe in 100 years from now, somebody might actually say it's in a good location, because we've got king coal ducts scheduled to go in. There's some other potential development happening in Eudora, and this could potentially be a nice piece of green space in the future. That would be my recommendation. We'd have to probably pay for the cost of doing the appraisal, but in the end, we'd have something to base a tax receipt on.
Ingrid, did I see it was appraised at 200 some odd thousand? Did I see that in the report?
I don't know.
And I just wondered, if they got a tax receipt, do we have a maximum we can give a tax receipt for?
Well, Donna would use the appraisal to justify the tax receipt, and that's what we would need. So we can't just pick a number, we'd have to go through a formal appraisal.
Okay, what would you like to do with this? Councillor Hyatt?
Motion to
Councillor Barton?
refer back to staff to come up with a recommendation.
Great. Go
Yeah,
ahead.
just, again, I'd like to speak to this. I grew up close to this area, and, I think when it's available, I think we'd be kicking ourselves in, 10 or 15 years
Oh.
if we didn't accept it. It's a
Absolutely.
fantastic gift, and really appreciate
You'll second that?
it. Of course.
Great. All those in favor? Carried.
Correspondence item 78, Eleanor Todd, reuse of Goodwood Lions Hall by the Goodwood Cloggers.
Councillor Hyatt again. Sorry,
I guess through
I was kinda waiting for that.
through you to staff, can we have this facility open without testing the water? I guess is the question.
My personal opinion is no. There's too much risk. You can't have everybody say that we won't drink the water. I think you either are gonna test it, but the other thing is we're going through our environmental stuff right now, and the plan is to sell the hall. And it will be on the block as soon as we can get it there. We're gonna deal with a phase 1, potentially a phase 2 environmental assessment, and then it will be sold. And the reason it's being sold is also to finance the addition that's going on the Goodwood Hall. So we need to be careful not to lock it up too long.
Are you commenting, Pam?
Yes, I want to comment because Eleanor was told that it was available to the group until the end of June, whenever they finished up this last session, and then that was it. That was what she was told and what she had agreed to.
Okay. Okay, so do we have a mover on this? You'd like to move something, Councillor Beach?
I'd like to move that Eleanor be notified that that the hall will not be available as of them finishing their session of clogging.
Great. Do you have a seconder, please? Oh. Go ahead. Councillor Ballinger.
My only comment is that, I've known Eleanor a long time, is that when we send a letter to her, and I understand it, but the reasons why, and that's all, the reasons why they can't use it. Thank you.
Yeah.
Councillor Barton.
Yeah, I think the issue, from what I understood in the letter, I think the issue is the cost. They'd be happy to use the Goodwood Hall, but it's more expensive. What's that? Oh, is that why? Okay, I just read about the cost, all right. Fair enough.
Councillor Bryan.
I would suggest, we can send a letter, but I would certainly suggest that the ward councillor call her and explain this to her rather than just a letter, so it's a one-way dialogue. I think it's great if she can reach out and have that conversation, so we won't have this back and forth.
Great. So Councillor Beach has moved it. Could we have a seconder? Do you have a question, Councillor Hyatt? Go ahead.
I guess to staff, they're paying rent now, I assume, right?
To the Lions
They're
Club.
not paying rent?
My understanding is they are not paying rent. We were allowing them to finish off their session, and had advised them, I believe it was the end of May, that they would need to be finished, because we were going to be doing some work, and we have to make a decision as to when we're gonna stop testing. But one thing I would like to suggest too is that we'll call the health department and confirm that absolutely it can't happen without the treatment system being on, because I think that you're gonna need to have that information.
Well, my suggestion would be if they are paying rent, we use that to pay the the water testing bill?
They're not paying enough.
They're not paying enough?
If they weren't
Okay.
paying, it wasn't.
Well, you can have that discussion with them, Council.
Okay, so it's moved by Councillor Beach. Do I have a seconder? Councillor Bryan. All those in favor? Carried.
Correspondence 79, Patrick Malloy, re-resignation from the office of Ward 2, Councillor Deputy Mayor.
Councillor Bryan.
Accept the resignation?
Seconded by? Councillor Beach. All those in favor? Carried.
Correspondence 80, Janet and Henry Regis, request for the Turtle Crossing sign on Sandy Hook.
Councillor, who's, Gord? Councillor Hyatt?
Yeah, I've already had some communication, with, Regis's. I think, I've talked to Ben about it briefly. According to, Bill, we have not erected any signs of our own, although the region has done some on 47 that we approved, I think,
Yes.
2 years ago or so. So what I would suggest is we refer this back to Public Works and have them come forward with a recommendation.
Okay.
I know this is being done elsewhere by the Conservation Authority as well, so it might be something that we want to add moving forward.
Councillor Barton and Councillor Ballinger.
Yeah, I sent this out to the Watershed Committee just to survey them and see what they thought. We've talked a lot about wildlife preservation. So far, the Watershed Committee are unanimous to support putting these signs up on Sandy Hook Road.
Councillor Ballinger.
And I agree, having lived there for probably 25 years in the Sandy Hook Road, right where they're talking about, there are turtles that cross there.
Yeah, of course.
So I think if we can do something either through conservation or through Public Works, let's do it.
I think they actually go through that turtle rescue in Kawartha Lakes, isn't that where that's where it goes through, but, and I'm sure Public Works will look into that. Okay, so we have a mover and a seconder? All those in favor? Carried.
Correspondence 81, Karen Percy and Doug Lippe, Teachers Mentors Abroad, request for use of the parking and washroom facilities at Harriman Fields to host Mentors in Motion, October the 13th.
Council? Councillor Barton?
Yeah, I support this.
Motion support by Councillor Barton. Do I have a seconder? Councillor Bryan. All those in favor? Carried. Reports to Council. This is report DS 2318 Elizabeth Housen. This is regarding 3949 Regional Road 30. This is Stouffville Glass. Do we have any questions for Liz? Liz, I have a question if you don't mind me starting with one. I don't know if it's actually for you or not. How many times can we renew temporary zoning?
You can renew it as many times as
Can
you
we?
want.
Great, thank you. Do we have any questions? Councillor Ballinger?
It's not a question, just a comment. I have been down there, I've met with the people and talked with the people. There'll come a day that maybe it won't be renewed. I know the region always look the other way at it and say, well, we're not in favor of it, but we have the right to do what we want to do. And there may be, in talking, there may be a loophole in there, and Liz might be aware of it, that they're right on the line. They're right on the line where we have all the industrial stuff, so it just needs a little bit of expansion and they would be included. So, yeah, I'm in favor.
Councillor Barton?
Yeah, and I'm with Jack as well. I'm in favor of keeping this business open and their employees working, and then with a path of finding a way to fit that into our industrial zoning.
Sorry, I didn't hear the last part. What did you say?
With the hope that we can find a way to fit that business into our industrial park.
Okay, so we have a
And
mover.
through you, Mr. Mayor, we are working on this. We would not be recommending the renewal if we thought there was no way to make this work.
Great. Moved by Councillor Beach, seconded by? Oh, Councillor Ballinger moved it. Would you mind seconding it, Councillor Ballinger? Councillor Beach? Great. All those in favor? Carried, thank you. This is report DVO 418 of Councillor Dave Barton regarding selection of a deputy mayor. Comments? Councillor Bryan?
A couple of things. Of course, this is the time I just knocked my thing down. A couple of questions I had for Councillor Barton. One, it had said, you said margin of the second, the margin. Do you mean percentage or do you mean number of votes?
Well, I would, like, percentage above the rest. So if there was someone who got 75% of the vote,
Okay.
then I think that person would
Because my question with that is because the larger wards tend to have more people. So like a Ward 4 or Ward 5 would have more, so you wouldn't necessarily want to say that it's number of votes, right? Because it may be skewed. So I think if you did a percentage, I think that's right. I think that needs to be clear.
Okay. I thought a margin like a sales guy, so it would be a percentage.
Okay, and the second thing is you would called it interim mayor. We didn't appoint Mayor Malloy as interim mayor, he's appointed mayor.
Okay.
So that's a point of clarification. I would suggest that, I think it's a good report. I think you have some great points in there on the regional councillor. I would just think that we need to get back to staff, make sure they're okay with that process. And you're right, we were all kind of caught off guard on this one.
Yeah.
We weren't expecting that, but I think it was a good report apart from those couple of points of clarification.
Councillor Ballinger.
Thank you.
Thank you, and thanks for the report, David. Just a couple things. Going back a number of years ago, and well, when my brother Bill was mayor, it was rotating councillors that were deputy mayor. They just rotated them through, each one for 2 months, and they were so they all got the experience. I'm just reading now about the city of Barrie. Barrie does not have a deputy mayor, but they're going to have one. And the recommendation is going to be that the mayor will select the councillor who he thinks should be the deputy mayor, but then council votes on it. So there's different ways out there. Sometimes they rotate them through. When it's bad is really, I always believe that if you're deputy mayor, you fill in for the mayor. But this come up, it happened to be in an election year. But it makes perfect sense. If I vice president and the president dropped dead, I'm taking over. It would be in the United States of America if it had to be. I just see this as a natural thing. It just happens when it's an election year that it's come up, it caused the controversy.
Absolutely.
And that's, yeah.
And our process is the same as Barry's, is the mayor makes a recommendation, council approves the deputy mayor. That's how we do it here, right? So, I agreed with some of Alan Wells' comments, but, and I think the problem is that you want to make sure when you get to the point in a situation like this, which hopefully we don't have happen again, but when you get to a situation like this, personalities are out of it and there's a process and that's the way it goes. That's the mission. So let's hope that if we can refer this back to staff, maybe we can come up with, and I suggest we all supply staff with some comments to see if we can give them some input, and then maybe get a report back from staff. Councillor Hyatt.
Yeah, through you to Debbie, should each council maybe at the beginning of their term establish the rules and regs that that particular council is going to follow, rather than us doing it for future councils? Do you follow me? Like, maybe on the first meeting when they're inaugurated, maybe they should be saying, okay, this is the process for your deputy mayor, your regional appointee, all that kind of stuff? In other words, each council decides for that council, you know what I mean?
Through your worship, that's certainly an option that council could exercise.
Because I agree with a lot of the points that Councillor Barton has brought up here, but I think it should be that council that makes that decision right up front. In other words, who's going to be the deputy mayor, who's going to be the regional appointee, that kind of stuff, rather than us doing it for future generations. Do you follow me?
I guess the thing with this, it could be treated the same as any other policy the council implements, whether it be for themselves or for staff
future,
or the corporation as a whole. This council can implement a policy for filling a vacancy at the mayor's level, appointing a deputy mayor. If the next council decides that they're not in support of that, they can strike it.
They could amend
So,
it, okay.
yeah.
All right, thank you.
I'm actually, and I'm personally, I'm in favor of the regional councillor being the deputy mayor. I think that's the way it should be. Councillor Beach.
I agree with a number of Dave's points. We do need to do something, and as Debbie said, like, it could be changed at any point in time, or we can wait till the new council, but we need to have something. We never had to have this happen before, so now we're just doing preventative maintenance to set things in motion and have a proper procedure for what we need to do. Thank you.
So what are we doing with this? Do we have Councillor Barton?
So, I wrote this report so that councils moving forward, especially as people are deciding which wards they want to run for, or regional or whatever, they understand what the expectations could be of those positions, so that everyone is totally aware of what they're getting into. And then, as sort of a note to leave to the next council, as something that, after we've been through this process, something that we've learned through it. Just, again, to make sure that as many of our residents as possible have as much input as possible. That's the goal here. In no way am I trying to push anything down council's throat. I wanted to bring this up as my thoughts moving forward.
And many of the comments that Alan Wells made in his presentation were very valid too, so. Okay, so we have a mover. Do we have a mover?
What is
No.
the, what is the motion?
I think
Okay.
there should be a motion to receive, just to refer to staff, I think was the discussion.
That's what my recommendation.
Your recommendation is that they write a bylaw.
Yeah, so we need to make a motion to refer this to staff. For a report. Councillor Beach makes that motion. Councillor Ballinger will second that. All those in favor? Carried. This is item CL 3218 of Debbie LaRue as well. This is regarding declaring the Ward 2 seat vacant. The recommendation is that pursuant to Section 262.1 of the Municipal Act 2001, the Council of the Township of Uxbridge declare the Ward 2 councillor seat to be vacant. So I need a mover, a seconder, and Councillor Barton, mover. Councillor Bryan, seconded. All those in favor? Carried. There's an addendum with report numbers. Oh, do we have to at 7:30? Okay. We have to do a public meeting at 7:30, and so I will turn the chair over to Councillor Hyatt.
Thank you, Mayor. I'm going to call to order the Planning and Economic Development Committee and ask if there's any disclosures of pecuniary interest or general nature thereof. There being none, this is a statutory public meeting which is being held pursuant to the Planning Act to consider an application by Kent Sheridan for a zoning bylaw amendment 2018-05. The purpose and effect of this application is to amend the zoning bylaw to permit an additional dwelling in an accessory building. The subject property is designated prime agricultural area in the Region of Durham official plan and zone rural in Township zoning bylaw 81-19. The subject property is located between Concession Road 6 and Regional Road Number 1, having the municipal address of 645 Davis Drive, and is legally described as part of Lot 37, Concession 6, Township of Uxbridge. Any person may attend a public meeting and make representations in response to the proposed development. All information, including personal information, opinions, presentations, reports, documentation, etc., provided for or at a public meeting are considered public records pursuant to Section 27 of the Municipal Freedom of Information and Protection of Privacy Act. This information may be posted on the Township of Uxbridge website and or made available to the public upon request. Questions about this collection should be directed to the Director of Legislative Services Clerk, Debbie LaRue, at 51 Toronto Street South, P.O. Box 190, Uxbridge, Ontario, L9P 1T1, or by calling the Clerk's Department at 905-852-9181, extension 228. The Township often receives requests for notification above and beyond what is required by the Planning Act. The Clerk's Department does not have the resources to respond to these requests, especially where the requests are general in nature. Therefore, if a request for notification is received by the Clerk's Department, they will notify persons as required by the Planning Act. And in addition, persons will be notified of any council meeting at which it is proposed that a decision will be made by council on an active matter and no other notification will be given. The Township has made available other ways in which residents may keep themselves aware of matters being considered by council. These include calling your ward councillor, checking the Township website at www.town.uxbridge.on.ca, by reading committee and council agendas which are available in the Clerk's Department at Town Hall, usually by no later than the Friday prior to a committee or council meeting, or by calling the Clerk's Department to inquire as to the status. Thank you for your cooperation and your understanding. Any persons wishing to make oral or written submissions on the subject reports should give their names, addresses, and postal codes to the clerk and ask their questions through myself, the chair. Now, there are sign-up sheets here on the middle table for those who proceedings. So if you're interested in this particular application, excuse me, please fill out the appropriate form. So right now we'll start with the applicant. They can choose to come to the desk here or the podium and give us a brief summary of what they're planning to do. Then we'll open up to questions from committee and then questions from the public. You're Mr. Sheridan? Yeah. Just push the gray button there on the mic and it'll light up for you. There you go.
Better? So I'm proposing to put a addition on an accessory building, for an apartment for my father. In the drawings, I've included, provisions for an elevator shaft. I have met all the requirements from Lake Simcoe Conservation Authority. I have a, excuse me, sorry, a permit from Durham Region Health Department for a septic system. Met all the requirements of the fire department, and, well, I'm assuming the building department as well, upon further review, but the main purpose of this building is make life a little easier for my father.
That's it? Okay.
I think so.
You sound like you've covered all the bases I was gonna ask you, so that's, we'll open it up to committee now and ask if there's any questions. Jack?
Yeah, thanks, Councillor Hyatt. How big is the accessory building? Give me square feet.
The current building or the...
Where you intend to be at the end?
The current building is 1,600 square feet.
Mm-hmm.
The addition to it would be 1,200 square feet. The difference in the square footage is stairwell, elevator shaft, and access to that apartment above.
And the height of the building?
The height of the building, sorry.
Your ballpark figure's good. I'm just trying to imagine what you've got here.
The existing building is a single story. The addition should be right here, sorry. The addition would be 2 stories, 9, 9, 18, 20, I think it was 20, roughly around 19 or 20 feet to the peak.
Okay.
No, sorry, it'd be a little bit higher than that, I'm sorry.
And the size of the property?
It's a 10-acre property.
Okay. And it's just wanted to get an idea what you're doing.
Here's the drawing. Yep.
There they are. There they
I
are.
have a picture of the drawing, of the building here, okay?
27 feet to the peak, sorry.
Okay.
There you go,
thank
I
you.
found it.
Okay, no, I'm fine with that, Mr.
You
Chair.
okay? Councillor Barton?
Yeah, I sat through this pre-comp and, first of all, it's our first apartment in an auxiliary building that will be legal in the township, which is fantastic. I think it's a great step forward. And, I love that the fact that you really thought ahead, put in the elevator shaft, made sure there's some space for your dad to work downstairs. I really like the design and everything you're doing there. So,
Well,
great work, Ken.
Thank you.
Any other questions? No? Okay, I'll open it up to the public. Ask if anybody in the audience has any questions for the applicant. Going once, twice, gone. Actually, you answered the questions that I was going to ask about LSRCA and fire. They're the 2 of our big ones, at least on my list anyway. So what I'm going to do, I'm going to give 7 days for any written requests or comments, rather, to come in. And any persons who want further notice of the passage of a bylaw should give their full name, address, and postal code to the clerk. And as I mentioned earlier, the sheets are up front here if you want to be kept informed. And I will adjourn that meeting. Thank you very much. Wasn't as bad as you thought it would be.
No. Thank you all for your time. Thank you. Pardon me? Did you ride your bike here? No.
Did you want to go back to the agenda, Mr. Mayor?
I think, I think we'll go back to a bit of the agenda. I think we'll go back and deal with bylaws. We'll see if we can get those out of the way. We have another public meeting in 5 minutes, so I won't take the report that's on the addendum will take a little bit longer. So let's go to bylaws, okay?
Bylaws requiring 3 readings, first and second reading, motion by Councillor Bryan, seconded by Councillor Ballinger. That leave be granted to introduce bylaws number 2018-071 to 2018-077, and the same be read a first and second time.
Leave be granted a third reading. Oh, sorry, all in favor. Do you have a question, Councillor Hyatt?
I have a question on 071. What are we doing with this? Are we amending the existing allocation policy? Can someone answer that? 'Cause I know we have one. I'm
The
just trying to
allocation
think what we're
policy?
doing with this.
This was a result of, the report that was at the last meeting, I believe. Ingrid had put forward a report.
Is this for minor units?
This is to do with the seniors residence? Is that what it is? I'm just not clear on what it is. If someone could enlighten me.
The sewage allocation report is on the agenda for the 4th of June.
Is that the 200 units you're talking about?
What it basically does is it amends the bylaw. So what it does is it sets aside 100 reservations for, it hasn't come yet. Yeah, so that one probably can come off.
We should delete it.
And go
Do you want to table it?
table it.
Okay. So do you want to amend your,
I'm assuming it's an amendment, but I could be wrong.
do you know what we're doing? You got it?
Okay.
Okay.
Do you like to table the first one, or just read from, okay, make a motion to table bylaw number 2018-071?
All's in favor? Sorry, do you have a question, Councillor Ballinger? Second it? Okay, all's in favor? Carried.
Bylaws requiring 3 readings, first and second reading, moved by Councillor Bryan, seconded by Councillor Ballinger, that leave be granted to introduce bylaw numbers 2018-072 to 2018-077, and the same be read a first and second time.
All's in favor? Carried. Leave be granted a third reading.
Third reading, moved by Councillor Bryan, seconded by Councillor Ballinger, that bylaws number 2018-072 to 2018-077 be now read a third time, finally passed, and the Mayor and Clerk duly sign and seal same.
Any questions or comments? All's in favor? Carried. So we're done. We're going to take about a 3 or 4 minute break, and we'll be back. The reason is because we have to start this public meeting at 7:45. We can't start it early. Okay?
Oh, okay.
Not sure what she's doing.
Okay, I'll call to order the Planning and Economic Development Committee and ask if there's any disclosures of pecuniary interest or general nature thereof. There being none, this is a statutory public meeting which is being held pursuant to the Planning Act to consider an application by BRND Properties Incorporated for zoning bylaw amendment 2018-06. The purpose of this application is to amend the zoning bylaw to permit a contractor's yard with open storage. The subject property is designated Oak Ridge's Moraine Area, Rural Employment Area, in the Region of Durham Official Plan and zoned Holding Rural Industrial Exception number 37 in the Township Zoning Bylaw number 81-19. The subject property is located on the south side of Anderson Boulevard, having the municipal address of 27 Anderson Boulevard, and is legally described as Plan 40M-2336, Lot 3, Township of Uxbridge. Any person may attend a public meeting and make representations in response to the proposed development. All information, including personal information, opinions, presentations, reports, documentation, etc., provided for or at a public meeting are considered public records. Pursuant to Section 27 of the Municipal Freedom of Information and Protection of Privacy Act. This information may be posted on the Township of Uxbridge website and or made available to the public upon request. Questions about this collection should be directed to the Director of Legislative Services Clerk, Debbie LaRue, at 51 Toronto Street South, P.O. Box 190, Uxbridge, Ontario, L9P 1T1, or by calling the Clerk's Department at 905-852-9181, extension 228. The Township often receives requests for notification above and beyond what is required by the Planning Act. The Clerk's Department does not have the resources to respond to these requests, especially where the requests are general in nature. Therefore, if a request for notification is received by the Clerk's Department, they will notify persons as required by the Planning Act. In addition, persons will be notified of any council meeting at which it is proposed that a decision will be made by council on an active matter and no other notification will be given. The Township has made available other ways in which residents may keep themselves aware of matters being considered by council, and these include calling your ward councillor, checking the Township website at www.town.uxbridge.on.ca, by reading committee and council agendas, which are usually available in the Clerk's Department at Town Hall by no later than Friday prior to a committee or council meeting, or by calling the Clerk's Department to inquire as to the status. Thank you for your cooperation and your understanding. Excuse me. Any persons wishing to make oral or written submissions on the subject report should give their name, address, and postal code to the clerk and ask their questions through myself, the chair, or file a written submission. As I mentioned at the previous meeting, there are sign-up sheets here for this presentation. So if you're interested in being notified, please sign up before you leave this evening. So how we'll do this is similar to our last presentation. We'll ask the applicant to give us a brief presentation on what they're planning to do. We will then open it up to questions from committee and then questions from the public. So, sir, if you could give us your name, address, postal code for the clerk, thank you.
Good evening, Mayor, Council, staff, and members of the public. My name is Gord Mahoney. I work for Michael Smith Planning Consultants. I'm here tonight on behalf of BRND Properties, Inc., and with me this evening is Jeff Norton, a principal in the company. Before Council this evening is an application for an amendment to the Township zoning bylaw to permit a contractor's yard with open storage. As the Chairman has noted, the application, or the applicant's property is located on the south side of the Anderson Boulevard. The property is municipally known as 27 Anderson Boulevard, and it's legally described as Lot 3, Plan 40M2336. The property is currently, there we go, that's the location of the property. The property is approximately 8,400 square meters in size, or just over 2 acres, with 56 meters of frontage, and is currently vacant. The applicant wants to build a 929 square meter building, or 10,000 square feet, to operate his contracting business. The building will contain approximately 740 square meters, or 8,000 square feet of office space, over 2 floors, and 557 square meters, or 6,000 square feet of warehouse space. BRND Properties, Inc. owns the property, but Mr. Norton's other company, JMX Demolition and Environmental Contractors, will be the tenant of the building. JMX Contracting specializes in demolition, site decommissioning, soils, tank removal, asbestos and mold removal, and general contracting. In this regard, the proposed offices are for the day-to-day operation of the company. The warehousing aspect of the building is for the storage of specialized equipment for the removal of asbestos and mold and materials needed for the removal. It should be noted that the materials, the asbestos or mold or other contaminated materials, will not be brought back to the site. Outdoor storage is sought so that the company can store construction equipment, excavators, bulldozers, front-end loaders, certain attachments, trucks, and garbage containers, while they're not being stored on job sites. The subject land is currently zoned site-specific rural industrial M137 with a holding provision. And as noted, the existing zoning does not permit a contractor's yard with open storage. Further, the holding provision that's on the property requires the owner to enter into a site plan agreement with the township prior to the removal. And it is noted that in conjunction with the zoning bylaw amendment application, an application for site plan approval has been submitted. Our planning justification report submitted with the application outlines in detail how the proposed development is consistent and conforms with all pertinent planning policies, documents. And for brevity, I will not go through in detail how it complies, other than to say that it is our opinion, or my opinion, that the development is consistent with and conforms to all required planning policy documents. It's also my opinion that the proposal represents good planning. And that concludes my presentation. I'd be pleased to answer any questions.
Thank you. I'll open it up to questions from committee. Chuck?
Yeah, thanks, Mr. Chair. I think I've already asked my questions, but for the people that are here, Number one, there's no gas tanks on the property, and number two, it's outside the wellhead protection.
Mayor Malloy, did you have a question?
Oh, I did. I'm just picturing that. There's still a berm there along 47? Is there a berm at that point?
I don't know if there's certainly a grade difference between Highway 47
Yeah,
and
that
the
was
top
just,
of the...
no, maybe not a berm, but that's just well uphill,
Yes,
isn't it?
yes.
Okay, which should limit
Probably
the view.
2.5 meters or so.
Can you go to the mic for us, please? Because we're on TV and they need to, hear you talk to the
I
mic.
don't mean to interrupt, but I can probably answer the question. If your thought is the perception from 47 to the property,
Yeah.
that one is one of the ones that's highly elevated.
Okay, I
where you
wondered.
cannot see the backside of it.
Okay, great. I thought so. Thank you.
Councillor Barton? And we'll go to Councillor Beach.
Oh, sorry, do you wanna go first? Okay, Jeff, actually, this is a question for you. On that big berm, and I'm looking at it on Google Maps right now, but, can you do me a favor and just plant some trees along there as well? Just they can be saplings so that in 10 years they're up. Oh, you're doing that already?
Sorry, I was slow on the trigger.
Thanks for preparing this in advance for me.
You're welcome.
Councillor Beach?
My questions have been answered, and that was to plant some trees and so on. And I know the berm right there is got a good height, so if you put some trees up there, natural growth, it'll be great.
Anybody else? I just have one. What are you using the outdoor storage area for specifically?
Storage of construction trucks,
Trucks?
vehicles,
Okay.
backhoes, excavators, bulldozers.
Is there any servicing at all on the site, like, changing the oil or any of that kind of stuff?
I wouldn't expect so.
No? That's all done elsewhere? Yeah?
Outside. Outsourced.
Outsourced? Okay. Jack already mentioned fueling facilities, that's always a concern, but, okay, that's all the questions I have. So now we'll open to the public. Anyone have any questions, comments? Going once, twice, 3 times. Okay, I'm gonna give 7 days, for any written comments, so any persons who want to make further notice of the passage of the bylaw should give their full name, address, and postal code to the clerk. As I said, the sheets are right here on the table, so please fill them out before you leave this evening. I will adjourn, Mr. Mayor, and pass the chair back to you. Oh,
So I
sorry,
just want to
Dennis.
ask, would you mind providing the clerk with some of your notes on your presentation? Be great if you wouldn't mind. Yeah, that's great. Are they your only ones? We can make copies if you like. Great. Okay, it's close.
Great.
Okay, thank you. Great, thanks very much. All right, we're going to move on to the addendum on the agenda, and that is report number CL 3318 of Debbie LaRue, Director of Legislative Services, clerk filling the vacancy of the Ward 2 Councillor seat. Any comments, suggestions, questions? Councillor Ballinger.
Well, I just suggest that we make the appointment and we make it quick. And if you want my opinion would be that whoever ran second you in the election, that would be my choice, so that we could move on.
Are there any other comments? Councillor Barton.
Yeah, my only comment, to ensure that this election in October is fair, I would suggest that whoever we appoint for this position is not also someone who's running for the position. That's my take on it.
Personally, I wouldn't agree with that. I don't, that's not my thing. I think it's about carrying on with our business, not about what's happening in October, so. But anyway, that's, yeah, that would have to be a friendly amendment to Councillor Ballinger's. Did you make a motion, Councillor Ballinger?
No.
Did you suggest
Well, I just
number
given
one?
you, my suggestion, and, I would not, if I make the motion, I will not take that, friendly amendment, because I don't believe in that.
Okay. All right, so where are we at? Councillor Hyatt.
Yeah, although I can see where Jack's going with this, I just don't think, at least if I lived in Ward 2, and I voted for our mayor as Ward 2 councillor, and again, this is not about personalities, it's about process. I just can't see giving it to the first runner-up, if you will, if that's what you want to call this. To me, I I don't really like any of the choices. Obviously, the clerk has informed us that we don't have the time for a by-election, so that's out. So we're faced now with appointing somebody. How do you choose? I guess that's the question here. I would rather see something along the lines of the second choice here, like advertising it or creating some kind of criteria, and then having people apply for the job, no different than you would do in a general election. In other words, here is the position, here's what's required, and then it's up to the people vetting you to decide whether you qualify or not. So I'm kind of leaning to the second choice here as to the process, Debbie. We would totally be relying on you to guide us through that. Personally, I couldn't accept 1. 3 is the sort of same scenario, although you're picking a different individual, but I would be leaning to the second choice, Mr. Mayor.
I just want to clarify, it's not a timing issue, it's a legislation issue. That's why we're not going to an election. It's not about time, it's the fact that we can't do it. Okay. Councillor Bryan.
I'm in agreement with Councillor Ballinger on this. I think that the second place person was the second choice in that area. He's familiar with it, and I would be fine appointing that person to fill in on an interim basis. Again, regardless of whether they're running or not is irrelevant in my mind. I think the thing is getting us back up to speed, running the corporation, getting someone in there. So if Councillor Ballinger made that motion, I would certainly second it.
Any other comments? Okay, so what I'll need is, I need a motion. Councillor Ballinger?
My motion is that the person that ran second in the 2014 elections in Ward 2 be appointed to move into that position in the next, whatever, 6 months.
Till November 30th?
Yep. Yep.
Yeah. Do I have a seconder? Councillor Bryan. Just so you know, if we pass this motion, it will still go back to staff. There's some criteria staff has to deal with, as you know, and it won't come back till the next council meeting. It'll come back to that again. Okay, so we have a motion moved and seconded. All those, the motion essentially is to approve the number 1 selection, number 1 option. Is that correct?
Yep.
Okay, all in favor? Carried. Okay, so this will go back to staff, and staff will report next council meeting. Is that right? Okay. Press, because we're done.
Any other business?
Oh, sorry. Is there any other unfinished business? Any other business? Okay, now we're done. Press. Moya.
Sorry, I just missed what you said, so now that will go back to staff, and then what happens? They'll just come back with a report on who it is?
Yes, I think what has to happen now is that they have to confirm that the person is available or
willing?
and eligible. There's a number of eligibility things, and they have to be asked, of course, if they're available. So,
okay.
And that's what council will continue to do now.
Okay, and so that would come, when
The
will that
next
report
council
come
meeting,
back the next
council meeting, they will come back with the name, and then council will approve it at that time.
Okay. And that would have to be a regular council, not
And it'll be
committee?
June the 11th, the regular council meeting.
Okay,
Yep.
thank you.
Any other questions? Yes, sir.
I'm looking at Ms. LaRue's report here.
Sorry, I couldn't hear.
I'm sorry, I'm looking at Ms. LaRue's report and the options she gives council, but nowhere do I see the option of running a by-election. Why is that?
Because that's legislation. We can't run a by-election. The time's up. It's too close to the election. We're not allowed to have a by-election.
Okay.
That's legislation. I think you do say that.
On Councillor Barton's report, you referred that to staff, and I'm wondering to what end?
Well, I think I suggested that councillors would put some input into this and maybe have staff put together a report that we could maybe get some consensus on. There's a number of different ideas here that would go to a much broader sort of policy than what was just indicated in the report.
Yeah, yes, Mayor, but you've just voted on Councillor Ballinger's motion to fill this vacancy by appointing the runner-up in the last election. So, since you've made that decision, what's the point of having another report from staff?
Yeah, Councillor Barton's report is for the next election. It's something we'd have to pass as a policy before the next election. Well, or you don't have to. We could leave it the way it is. Yeah.
On the Goodwood cloggers, does the municipality have no other facility that they can offer the cloggers for use in Goodwood?
I think Councillor Beach is going to speak to them and see if there are other options. You're going to have a discussion with them, I presume. You'd like to answer that, Councillor Beach?
Yes, they can't use the Goodwood Hall Community Center because it's cement
Concrete.
floors.
Yeah.
There's no other facility in Goodwood that the township owns that could be used, for the clogging.
And how much does it cost, to test the water at the Lions Hall for each month?
I think the last time I saw it was around $3,000 a year, so it's about a little under $300 a month, $250 a month, something like that.
Wow. Thank you, Councillor.
So that's Walkerton, by the way, did that. So
I'm sorry?
it's a result of Walkerton, that's why we're doing that.
Thank you.
In our clerk's report, it does say under section 65 of the Municipal Elections Act, states that by-elections shall be held to fill an office after, that no by-election shall be held to fill an office after March 31st. You're gonna have some other questions.
Some
Go ahead.
clarification on that point, Mayor. No by-election be held after May 31st.
March.
March 31st.
March 31st, sorry.
Okay.
Yeah, we got the date. We got the date thing. We got it.
I'm going home to bed.
Any other questions of the press and from the audience? Any questions? No questions? Great. Could we have a motion to adjourn? Oh, are you? Oh, I. Thank you for the pictures, Gail.
Thank you. You're welcome. I am surprised that Fred wasn't the first one to comment, because I took a couple of really good pictures of him.
Well, I did. That's what they said. Fred, why do you look fabulous? I said, just the way it goes.
I've never seen any good pictures of him, but...
Anyway, I was wondering, since you made an exception for May, could you make an exception in June to have the Ward 2 coming back instead of the morning at 7 o'clock at night?
Pardon me?
I'm just testing to see if you're paying attention.
I'm paying attention.
to me.
You want us to have another night meeting on the 11th? Is that what you're saying?
Yeah,
Oh.
I was just wondering, so then I can be there, since I'm a Ward 2 resident. I can't be there in the morning. I'm just asking.
I'm not sure how you want me to answer that question. It's scheduled for the
I want
morning.
you to
now.
answer it truthfully.
Oh, well, then I wouldn't support that.
I was just wondering if that's possible, in Debbie's wisdom, if that would be possible.
I think you're asking, can we switch the meeting to a night meeting on the 11th
Yeah,
of June?
on the 11th.
And I know the 11th of June is a really, really busy day because we're running into our last meetings, and I know they're gonna be very, very long meetings. So personally, I wouldn't suggest a night meeting, because there's a lot of business, because as you know, we close down in July and August. So we'll have one in July and one in August, so that's gonna be a very, very busy day.
Well,
That would
don't
be my comment.
Don't you have all the meetings in June?
Yeah, but we'll
Like
have...
all the Mondays?
Yeah, but some are committee, some are council. So we'll only have council after that, then one in July. Will we even get one more council after that? Yes, one more council after that, then we're into the July meeting, which is also packed, 25th, so. That's the issue. Night meetings, I know you've asked this before, and other people have said, let's have night meetings, but sometimes we're 6 or 7 hours. These meetings in June, they'll be very long, because everybody's gonna be getting all their information in, trying to get stuff done for the summer,
So the council meetings in June, the 2 council meetings will be very long?
I expect they will be, they usually are.
Okay.
And we have a public
I'll
planning...
be checking.
And we have a public planning meeting.
I'll take a picture for you.
Debbie, are you taking this down, what Jack and Fred are saying?
But you can always watch it on YouTube, Gail. It's always on YouTube afterwards. You can come here and watch it. Fermi bylaw.
First and second reading, moved by Councillor Bryan, seconded by Councillor Ballinger, that leave be granted to introduce bylaw number 2018-078, being a bylaw to confirm the proceedings of council at its regular meeting of May 14th, 2018, and the same be read a first and second time.
All those in favor? Carried.
Third reading, moved by Councillor
Leave be
Bryan,
granted.
seconded by Councillor Ballinger, who's not paying attention, that bylaw number 2018-078 be now read a third time, finally passed, and the mayor and clerk duly sign and seal same.
All those in favor? Carried. Motion to adjourn. Councillor Bryan. All those in favor? Good night.